In a world where alliances shift and power dynamics constantly change, imagine this: the United States, under President Trump, proposing something that seems almost impossible. What if they wanted to buy an entire country? Not just any country, but Greenland, a land that's mostly ice, sparsely populated, but with tremendous strategic importance. Its location between North America and the Arctic is key to global security. At first glance, it seems absurd. Yet, this proposal is being actively discussed by President Trump and his team. Could this be a diplomatic misstep, or is there something much deeper at play here? This is not just about ownership, not in the usual sense. This is about securing the future of power on a global scale. It's about controlling vital resources, ensuring military dominance, and possibly altering the very nature of international relations. The stakes are high, and the implications are enormous. Could Greenland become the next chess piece in a much larger geopolitical game? Let's unpack this together and explore what this really means. We need to understand the context. Where does this idea come from, and why is it being discussed now? To understand why Greenland is on the table, we must first explore the bigger picture. This is not a random idea. It is rooted in decades of geopolitical strategy, and it's tied to global power dynamics that shape our world today. Greenland has always been strategically significant. It lies in a key position between North America and the Arctic, a region of increasing global importance. The U.S. military has long had a presence there, with the Thule Air Base providing vital early warning systems for missile defense. But there's more. The Arctic is becoming a battleground for new resources, oil, gas, and rare earth minerals, resources that are becoming easier to access as the ice melts. These are no longer distant possibilities. They are real, and they could change the economic landscape. Greenland's natural wealth, combined with its location, makes it a prime target for countries like the U.S., Russia, and China. This isn't just about territory. It's about securing the future of national security, energy, and global influence. But how did we get here? This proposal isn't just a whim of the Trump administration. It's the culmination of years of strategic thinking, of assessing the shifting global order and the role Greenland plays within it. Now that we understand the context, let's dive into the history of Greenland's relationship with the U.S. How has this long-standing connection shaped the current situation? To understand the current discussions, we must look back at the history of Greenland and the U.S. This is not the first time the idea of acquiring Greenland has been raised. In fact, the U.S. has been eyeing Greenland for over a century. During World War II, the U.S. built its first military base on the island Thule Air Base. Its strategic location between the U.S. and Europe made it an ideal spot for monitoring Soviet activity during the Cold War. This set the stage for a deep, ongoing military presence in Greenland. But the desire to control Greenland has always been about more than just defense. Greenland's position in the Arctic, combined with its natural resources, has made it a prized asset. Even as far back as the 1942, the U.S. offered to buy Greenland from Denmark. Yet, despite these offers, Denmark has always been firm: Greenland is not for sale. This rejection hasn't stopped the U.S. from continuing to view Greenland as vital to its security strategy. The question remains, why now? Why is this conversation resurfacing under Trump? To answer that, we need to understand the recent crisis that pushed this issue into the spotlight. What happened that made Greenland's future feel so urgent? In recent years, tensions between the U.S. and global powers have reached new heights. The Arctic, long seen as a remote and quiet region, is now a focal point in the battle for global influence. And in this high-stakes game, Greenland is a key player. The tipping point came when President Trump, frustrated with diplomatic setbacks, made a bold move. In 2019, he proposed buying Greenland, an offer that was swiftly rejected by Denmark. But this wasn't just a political blip, it was a signal. The U.S. is signaling its intent to act. It's no longer just about diplomatic talks or negotiations. This is about securing the Arctic. And in Trump's eyes, Greenland is the linchpin in the U.S. strategy. This sudden push to buy Greenland highlights the growing importance of the region in global politics. As the ice melts, new resources are becoming accessible, and the race to control them has begun. The U.S. isn't just interested in Greenland's military value. It's eyeing the potential wealth beneath the ice. Is this move a legitimate national security strategy, or is it an aggressive power grab? The line between diplomacy and force has never been thinner. But what's behind the push for this acquisition? Let's dive into the hidden mechanisms at play in this geopolitical drama. At first glance, the push to acquire Greenland may seem like a simple diplomatic blunder. But there's more at play here, something far more complex. What many fail to see is the underlying system of strategic interests driving this proposal. Greenland is more than just a piece of land. It's a gateway to the Arctic, a region of growing importance due to its military, geopolitical, and economic significance. The U.S. sees Greenland as a critical piece in the battle for dominance in the Arctic. But this isn't just about military bases. It's about access to resources that could shape the global economy for generations to come. The ice is melting, and with it, Greenland's vast untapped wealth is becoming more accessible. The hidden mechanism here isn't just power, it's control. Control over resources, control over territory, and control over the future of global power. In the eyes of the U.S., acquiring Greenland means gaining an upper hand in the race for Arctic dominance. Now, let's look at what happens when these complex interests collide. What happens when nations that rely on these resources are pushed to the brink? As the tension around Greenland grows, so do the stakes. What started as a political proposal is now rapidly escalating into a full-blown international crisis. The U.S. is pushing harder, and nations around the world are beginning to take notice. Denmark, along with Greenland's citizens, are now caught in a difficult position. The Trump administration has made it clear that Greenland's importance to the U.S. is non-negotiable. Yet, Denmark and Greenland have consistently rejected the offer, but rejection doesn't seem to be enough. The rhetoric coming from Washington suggests that the U.S. is prepared to do whatever it takes to secure Greenland diplomatically or otherwise. This raises a chilling question. What happens when diplomacy fails? Could the U.S. resort to military action to secure Greenland? While the Trump administration has avoided making direct threats, the possibility of force is still on the table. And in an age where global conflicts are increasingly defined by resource control, the situation could spiral quickly. Is this the start of a new Cold War, or is it just a high-stakes negotiation? One thing is clear. Greenland is no longer just an island. It's become the epicenter of a global power struggle. But what about the people living in Greenland? How are the citizens of this vast, remote land affected by these international power games? While the U.S. and Denmark play their diplomatic games, there is one group whose voices are often overlooked. The people of Greenland, the inhabitants of this vast, icy land, are the ones who will be most affected by the outcome of this geopolitical struggle. For many in Greenland, the conversation about acquisition feels distant, almost surreal. To them, the talk of selling their home is not just a political issue, it's personal. Greenland has been under Danish rule for centuries, but its people have always retained a strong sense of identity and autonomy. Yet, despite their desire for independence, many Greenlanders feel a sense of powerlessness. Living in one of the most remote and challenging environments on Earth, they rely on global powers for everything from economic support to military protection. Some even view the U.S. as a potential ally, one that could offer more resources, infrastructure, and security. But others see this as a form of colonization, a shift from one master to another. As Alekatsiak Piri, a hunter in Greenland, said, it would be switching from one occupier to another. For many, the stakes are not just about territory or resources. They're about identity, sovereignty, and survival. The people of Greenland are caught between two competing powers with their future uncertain. So, how does this all affect the rest of the world? What happens when a small territory becomes the center of a global power struggle? As Greenland's fate hangs in the balance, its implications stretch far beyond the island itself. The U.S. isn't the only power with interests in the Arctic. Russia, China, and other nations are also eyeing this strategic region, and Greenland has become a key piece in a larger geopolitical puzzle. The Arctic has long been a place of tension, with nations competing for access to its vast resources. But the conversation has taken a sharp turn in recent years. The U.S. sees the acquisition of Greenland not just as a matter of territorial gain, but as a way to counter Russia and China's growing influence in the region. Russia, in particular, has been building up its military presence in the Arctic, investing heavily in new infrastructure and defense systems. China, on the other hand, has been pursuing its Polar Silk Road strategy, hoping to capitalize on the region's resources and shipping lanes. Greenland is caught in the crossfire between these global powers. If the U.S. succeeds in acquiring Greenland, it could tip the balance of power in the Arctic in favor of the West. But the consequences of such a move would reverberate across the globe, affecting everything from global security to international trade. Greenland's future isn't just a matter for Denmark or the U.S. It's a global issue, one that will shape the future of the Arctic and perhaps the future of international relations as a whole. But what does the future hold for Greenland and the world? Let's look at three potential scenarios. Looking ahead, there are three potential futures for Greenland, each with its own set of challenges and opportunities. Let's explore them one by one. First, the best-case scenario. Greenland remains an autonomous territory within Denmark, free from outside pressure. The U.S. and other global powers recognize Greenland's sovereignty, and diplomatic efforts lead to a stable, peaceful Arctic region. Greenland thrives economically, with its natural resources being developed responsibly, while its people maintain their cultural identity. Second, the middle ground. Greenland continues its status as a Danish territory, but with increased autonomy. Denmark and the U.S. agree on a mutually beneficial partnership where Greenland serves as a key player in global security and resource management. The region sees investment, and Greenland becomes a powerful ally in the Arctic without being fully integrated into the U.S. or any other power. Finally, the worst-case scenario. Greenland is pressured into a forced agreement, either through diplomatic or military means. The U.S. takes control of the island, either directly or through a heavily influenced partnership. This leads to a shift in global power dynamics, with Russia, China, and other nations pushing back. The Arctic becomes a new flashpoint in international conflict. Each of these futures has profound implications for Greenland, the U.S., and the world. What path will be chosen, and how will this shape the future of global power? As we reflect on these scenarios, one thing is certain. Greenland's future is a pivotal moment in global history. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. As we look at Greenland's future, one thing becomes clear. This is not just a territorial dispute. It's a battle for control over the future of the Arctic, the resources that lie beneath the ice, and the power dynamics of a changing world. President Trump's proposal to acquire Greenland is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. It's part of a broader strategy to secure U.S. influence in a region that is rapidly becoming the center of global competition. The stakes are not just about Greenland itself, but about who controls the Arctic and its vast resources. But as we've seen, the path forward is uncertain. The world is watching closely, and every move made will have far-reaching consequences. The actions taken today will shape the future of geopolitics for generations to come. Will diplomacy prevail? Or will the world be pushed toward a new kind of Cold War over control of the Arctic? One thing is for certain. Greenland's future is not just a story about one island. It's a story about the future of global power. Stay tuned as we continue to explore the shifting tides of global geopolitics. The world is changing, and it's changing fast.